Greetings. My name is Hilia and I like school. I like school and I like scholarships. This was not supposed to be my first YouTube channel. This was not supposed to be my first YouTube video. But then I was like, deadlines are approaching and I'd rather get this information out there while it's still relevant. So this is me speaking about like the Chevening and Commonwealth scholarships. Yeah? Cool. Last year I was studying a master's in physiology and then it wasn't quite working out. It wasn't progressing as master's degrees should. So I thought, let's put an end to that, and then that's a story for a different day. But then I was like, I do need to get a master's degree anyways, just because it's in line with my career objectives and I want a master's degree for multiple reasons. I come to realize that I learn better in structured settings, so like school, which is why I said I like school. Cool. So as a young Namibian, in a country where education is not free, unlike Germany, and then it comes to applying obviously, and like you can't just look at schools and be like I want to go to like, oh, it's like, yeah, but funding, right? Scholarships and whatnot. So for me, scholarships are always first priority when looking at schools and stuff. So I was looking at the UK specifically. I looked at the US obviously also, and then I was like, okay, US PhD, whatever. And then I was like, okay, where else can I go for my master's? A friend of mine is Australia. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of scholarships in the world in general, but I stumbled upon the Chevening and Commonwealth scholarships. I actually stumbled upon them like a while back, but like never really paid attention because I was already enrolled in a master's degree. But then when I made up my mind to start applying, I was like, okay, cool, let us look into the thing. So I want to take you through a couple of things that you should keep in mind when making these big decisions like I did. Me, big decision maker. The first one is obviously research. Research. Just in general, like, we're not familiar with the UK. I'm not familiar with the UK. I don't know if you're familiar with the UK. I'm not. I was just like, what is this? So it's a bunch of research into like what are the available funding mechanisms. Some universities have like in-house scholarships, like Edinburgh. The London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine also has some internal scholarships, like, internal funding mechanisms. And then like some are like super special, specific to certain countries. Some degrees like based on what you want to study, like perhaps the lab that you want to do research in, perhaps that researcher has funding, and then they could cover you as a system. My experience in SA though is that most of them, when they have funding for their students, it's for South African students like of that nationality, because whoever's funding them is like, we must develop people in our country. Yeah, so that's an experience. But perhaps things are different for you based on the field that you want to go into and stuff like that. For me, yeah. So you could contact like potential supervisors and ask if they're funding in their lab. You could, and like, I mean, if I think, okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, if you're thinking US, I've been told that you get a stipend while you're doing your PhD. So your funding would really be for your living experiences, but like, yeah, I don't know much about that. That is research for another day. So there are a lot of schools in the UK, 130, so says Google, and of which 106 maybe are in England. So, geography. And then the other thing to consider is also like, the other thing to consider is also like that, I mean, certain degrees like have different titles. Certain fields have different titles depending on the university and depending on the country. Yeah. So for instance, public health, right? Because that's where my master's is going to be in. Well, at some universities it's called global health. At some universities it's called international health. You obviously then want to look into what universities offer these courses, because some universities are like sort of leaning towards, like, fine, it has a science degree, but it's like a more like businessy university, and then even their science course is very businessy, and it's like biotech and entrepreneurship. So you can straight up Google best public health universities in the UK 2020, 2019, whatever, and then then you like start there. Okay, cool. So you get these universities and they're all ranked, and you're like, all right, great. Then what? I picked like best schools, like schools that are best in those particular fields. And I picked some average schools because I was very nervous, because like my marks, they're okay, they're good. Like I have like 68 for my undergrad, and then at 70 for my honors, and then like on the dot. I think something to point out, in case you're not like in university yet, is that, I mean, in case you're still in university, is that school is quite important. Marks are fairly important. I was just trying to like get through, you know, just writing my essays, doing my project, and just like not like average get through, because I actually like school, but you know, just above average. But then, you know, I look at these scholarships, and then some of them are like, yeah, 80%, and I'm just like, you know, crazy stuff. So marks are actually quite important going forward for now. So I wanted to look at some average schools and then some best schools, so that I can like apply to both, so that even if the best schools are like, actually, very random girl from Namibia, we don't know you, we don't like your 70%, then I can still like hopefully get into one of my average schools. So I was just like, yeah, let me just have the best of both worlds. And then like another thing was also just like, and this maybe isn't a big deal, but I was like, okay, I also don't want to apply to all schools in like the same city. Let me like have some diversity around the UK, one in Scotland, blah, 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 blah. So that's the thing, you want to look at which schools you actually meet the entry requirements for. But even if you don't, a lot of postgrad degrees are sort of like, here are the requirements, but also subject to head of department approval. So you can sometimes like apply and just like write a really strong motivation, and then they'll consider it. And the other thing is that sometimes your undergrad degree isn't even relevant, right, to what you want to study, because you're maybe really changing fields. You're coming from like an engineering background, and then you want to do like international relations or something, and then, you know, in which case your undergrad isn't too relevant. So, you know, apply anyways, I would say personally, but be conscious, I guess, of the fact that you want to balance it. Some schools where you will definitely get in, and some schools where you're just like close. So you're gonna list your schools, right? All the schools you qualify for, all the schools that your scholarships, your potential scholarships are willing to fund, blah, blah, blah. And then you're gonna look at supervisors, you know, what sort of research are they doing there? Do you wanna do research that's along, like, what if this school is like, cool, they have science, but like all their science is like water science, microorganisms in water, you know? And like, if you're into that kind of thing, that is great. Marine biology, that's great, but like it's not for me. So I feel like if a school had a really strong marine biology department, like that was the thing, then I probably wouldn't apply there, because I just feel like their human/biological sciences would be so casually sidelined. So that you can email them prior, you can email their students as well, people that have studied there. That's always super interesting. Like, you get people that have studied there under certain supervisors. They can also say like, hey man, that place, it was, you know. Or they can be like, yeah, it's great, you should go, plus you should check out this thing, also funding this. Like, you find really enthusiastic people that are really willing to help. This one girl was like, yeah, you can check out my application materials, and then I was just like, oh, you know. So that you want to look at the skills that you want from that degree. Like, if you want to learn like random programming things or data analytics things, epidemiology things, this is me, then you would pick a course that has those things in them, right? Because it's not just about the title. It's not just like, we're studying international health, but like, Hanakam, all your modules are very not relevant to what you actually want to do. I don't want to say what you don't want to do, like it's a dramatic thing, but I would not lean towards like doing something with a really obscure name like Masters in Health. I feel like later on when you're trying to explain I did a Masters in Health, or it's just like when it's randomly on your CV, people will just be like, Masters in Health. It's like, what? what sort of health? Like health policy, health economics, public health, like international health, global health? Like which health did you do? What sort of health? Health informatics? Like it's such a broad thing. And then like even if people are trying to guess what skill set you must have learned in there, it's just like health sciences, health. It's like doing a master's in engineering. Obviously, there's disciplines in engineering, and then you need to do one of them. Like you can't just be like engineering. Titles aren't too important, but they are a thing. This one time, a while ago, many moons ago, casually back in the day, I did human genetics for my undergrad, right? And then I'm back in the country, what up, trying to get a job. I go by the council, a certain council that I won't mention. And then they're like, okay, let's refer you to this other man. And then this man, and I went with my mom. I don't know why my mom was here. Yeah, but we were together, thriving. And then this man tells my mom, like, sometimes we let our children study things that don't make sense. So I'm sitting there like, I was speaking hypothetically, like, am I the one that did something that doesn't make sense? And then my mom's like, and then he's like, yeah, like this degree, there's no place for it in Namibia. You know, maybe she should go study something else. I'm like, yeah, it was just, yeah, fine. You've looked at your degrees, you've looked at your scholarships, you've looked at your supervisors, you've looked at like the research, you've looked at like the reviews, you've looked at the modules, the courses, the whatever, and then you should be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna rank my top 5 schools, or like, I don't know, depending on you. Like, the other thing is that some schools require application fees, which is a thing, and then some schools are like completely free in terms of application. So you know, you can consider that as well, whether you have money to play around with in terms of applications. And then you rank like your top 5, your top 10, mixing obviously schools that you think you're like destined to get into or more likely to get into, and schools that you're less likely to get into, that you're just shooting your shot at, stuff like that. And this is like a really important thing, because if you look at the Chevening scholarship, they ask about there's a question on the courses that you've picked. Like, you only submit 3 courses in your application, but they do ask, wait, what are your top 3 courses and why? And then for each one you're gonna have to justify, you know, I picked this course at this university because da 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 da, right? And then similarly with the Commonwealth scholarship, they also ask what are the objectives during your award. And I feel like the objectives, for me anyways, is the specific skill set that I planned to achieve and aim, and like the networks that I plan to make within that degree, and like my research objectives, and like cool, interesting questions that I'm gonna be able to apply back home, and all this other stuff. So it is something, that research. Just a casual thing on picking your course. So Chevening, when you enter your courses on the application form, they do care. They have like pre-approved courses on the system, and maybe you're searching in there and then your course is not there. Then you're like, what? Don't panic. They have a page on their website called Find a Course, through which you'll find the course. And then, if you can't find your course, you can like tell them about that missing course. And then you can like fill in a form. You can fill in a course like that, and then tell them about the course, and then they can add it, you know, and rather do this like sometime before the application deadline, so that when you actually apply it's on the system. But you know, that's a cool thing. With Commonwealth, you just like say your course. Now you gotta look at stuff like deadlines, you gotta look at stuff like when are what are the requirements for application? Do you need references? What do your references need to say? How much time do you have for your references? Like, you want to leave your references enough time, obviously. If you have to write a bunch of essays, you need time to write those essays. If you have to submit a video of you teaching someone how to do something that they've never learned before, then you need time to prepare that video. Then you get to writing. The thing about writing these essays is that you're writing to a stranger. A lot of us rely on our personalities to like win people over. I am relying on my personality right now, and it's just on paper it does not translate. Like my funny casual self, it's not like that on paper. So you really need to like write like real deal things. You know, highlighting things in your life is pretty difficult. This one fellowship I was applying to, it was like one of these like leadership development things to Romania, and then they were like, tell me about a personal goal of yours, and then that you like a personal challenge that you struggled with, something along those lines. And then I wrote about my struggle to gain weight, you know, because it was like tiny, like I was small, uncomfortably so. Like I was uncomfortable with it. I was like borderline underweight and it was stressing me out. So anyways, I wrote about this thing. I did get the fellowship. I can't say for sure that that's the thing that made me get the fellowship, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes we think our experiences are irrelevant. We think we need to have this huge title, this huge position. I had to be LRC, blah 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 blah. You really don't. You display leadership in the way that you live with your siblings, if you're like an older sibling, or if you're a younger sibling. I don't know, can't relate to that thing, but you display leadership in your daily life. Like when there is like a random bridesmaids party and then you're there, the one that's like coordinating the road trip and what, that is a display of leadership. And it's like, you want to think it's silly, but it's generally just about the way you structure your story. If you can draw up, okay, cool, there's this cool thing called the STAR methodology, and you know why I actually want to emphasize that no experience is insignificant, because like there could have been so much that you've done, like in volunteering, random things at work. I think what's important is to just not list it but explain it. Like, you know, just show them that you are the protagonist in your own life. Like it's not just like passive what, cruise control what. Like just show them that, you know, I'm making an active stance and I'm doing things. That is pretty much it. I'm doing things. And these are the things I've done. And like if you feel like you are running out of work, you feel like if you're coming up short word count wise, then give 2 to 3 examples. You know, it's just basically like, for that, what I'm trying to say is that I am pouring with examples of leadership. You know, pick your pick, stuff like that. An example that maybe I can just mention casually with networking, for instance, like you're saying, yes, I needed this and then I met who and then I networked, blah, blah, blah. How did you network? You know, I called them up, like just just go through the steps of what you did. I called them up and then I sent them a cold email and then I rocked up at their offices and then I saw that they were presenting at like some event and I went to the event and then I asked a question and then Q&A and then I was like, hey, can we meet for coffee after? Like stuff like that. You want to give the practical steps of what you did, and then as a result, who is now one of my clients, something like that. Okay, cool. So that was Chevening, sort of. Part of it was Chevening. Chevening is very much about the leadership, the networking, career goals, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Commonwealth is like, we are here to support the Commonwealth countries in their national development, you know, as a nation. How are you going to take this country forward? So they want you to be conscious of the SDGs. They want you to be conscious of like developmental impact for the people of your country, or for your industry and how that affects your country, stuff like that. So you need to be thinking big picture with Commonwealth. They have themes, and these themes are available on their website. They're available on the documentation that they have, but they have this cool document called the Terms and Conditions. These are 2019 ones, and then they even say like purpose of the Commonwealth Scholarship, right? And then they have these 6 themes that you can read about and then see which theme is most relevant to your program, and then you explain, you know, what am I doing? I, for instance, am in strengthening health systems and capacity, because that's the kind of work I want to do right now in my life. Anyways, they also have other stuff on like eligibility and like there is our great country of Namibia. When you're writing your Commonwealth scholarships, another cool thing that I found helpful is this rubric. I can link to it in the description below. They want to look at like obviously your primary indicators, what. what, and then you need to explain your developmental impact. So just make sure that you answer these questions, okay? And then there, by study plan, when you're describing your study career, your career goals and stuff like that, you need to be able to say what you want to learn and like show that it's been researched. And that's why I said it's important for you to research what you want to study and why and where, okay? Yeah, you know, reference to a national development priority or capacity shortage objective. Like, just look into the data and then be like, in Namibia, this is the situation, and that's why I want to do this, because I'm expecting positive results of this in the long term, in the short term, in the 10-year term, stuff like that. I think the other thing with Commonwealth is that you want to paint this picture of like this vision of Namibia that you hope to help bring to fruition, and then you're like, we want to reduce preventable death, and you know, we want to have evidence-based decision making around health systems, and like improve the baselines and the like decrease the years of productivity lost due to like communicable diseases. I'm just saying things from my field vaguely, but you want to have those terms, right? And then the other interesting thing about the Commonwealth application is they actually have a part where you're supposed to write about what you want to do, but in layman's terms, which is also like, what? So you're speaking immediately after my degree. This is what I like want to do. 2 to 3 years after my degree, this is what I hope to happen. 5 years after, 10 years after. Like, you need to break it down like that. And then the other thing to keep in mind casually is that these people hope to be associated with you for life. I mean, if they're gonna find you again, I'm sure you want to be associated with them for life too. But they want to know that you're gonna be this great person that when you're in the newspaper or whatever, doing whatever great thing, wherever, they're gonna be like, Chevening scholar, you know, Commonwealth scholar, blah blah blah. You know, even though you were like a Commonwealth scholar like 20 years ago at that time, they're just like, yes, it is us. The other thing to keep in mind is like, obviously it's a little more difficult to tap into, to like explain why you're doing a career jump, or it's a little less expected, let me say. Like, for instance, if you were in the mathematical sciences and now you want to do like a master's in chemical engineering, you know, and you're gonna get in, right? Because that's not the issue here. The issue is just that the scholarship should understand why this makes sense. You know, I'm sure you thought of it for a reason, right? So one of the Chevening scholars from this year, Abel, said, do you believe your own story? And I think that's a pretty important thing. Like, does it make sense to you? Are you convinced? Like, if you were to read it and this was a random stranger, would you be like, I see. Yes. You know, or would you just be like, yes. You know, you don't want people to be hesitating around your life story like that. So, yeah. On references, pick references that like you. This is actually a big deal. Pick references that you feel believe in you as a person and like in your success. And I know it's difficult to find people that are willing to write like things that are specific to you and not just this vague, well, they were a student here in the year 2000 to 2006, you know, and then they don't give like any further detail. Like, think about what are the things that the scholarship wants to know about me. They want to know that I'm ambitious. They want to know that I have leadership qualities. They want to know that I care about my country and I am a high academic achiever, stuff like that. So get your referee to write stuff like that. Like, you could send them notes of stuff to include, or you could send them just the link that speaks about your references that's on the Chevening website and says what sort of questions should they be addressing. There is a whole instructions for referees here. How long have you known the applicant? What capacity do you know the applicant? When last did you have regular contact with the applicant? You know, mention, like, endorse them, right? Skills and leadership and networking, personal, intellectual, interpersonal qualities, and the ability to compete and complete a demanding academic program in the UK. So you want these people to say all those things, and you want to give them time, because when referees rush, they can also do things. And it's the worst when like there's a deadline and then you're done, your essays are great, and then you're just waiting for the referees thing, like, and then because they're usually older and they're like a working professional and they have a life, you can't be like calling them up all the time. And then reference, don't forget to upload, right? It's just don't give each other stress. Just try and do it before time, or at least notify them even when you start writing your essay, so that they can like prep some things, then you can remind them a week before, stuff like that. Applying to schools is a completely different thing. Similar because you're also writing essays, different because they want to know different things. They want to know about your academic rigor, your ability to compete. They want to know that you really want to study here. Like, schools want to feel special, I feel. They want to feel special. They want to be like, what? You picked us specifically? Why us? Where did you hear about us? On Facebook? Word of mouth? From a previous student? From one of our staff? They want to know that you know what you want. They want to know that you're good-spirited, that you're hardworking, that you're like for the team, stuff like that. I'd also definitely say that you should submit before the deadline, just because sometimes people's websites crash, and then that's always like super panicky. Like, imagine the night before website crashes and you're just there. Like, I remember last year when I was applying for Chevening, the website crashed, but then thankfully they extended the deadline. Even for Apply, actually. Apply is like an NGO that I co-run here. And the first year we opened applications, website straight up crashed, and then we were just like, what? And then because we had to like expand our bandwidth, increase our bandwidth, something like that, we had to like extend applications because it just wouldn't be fair. But it's just, I can imagine how stressful it is. That's the thing. So the secret / the reason why I was able to speak about both scholarships is because I got both scholarships and then I picked one. So I'll be going to the UK. So yeah, I hope this was super informative. I hope so. I tried to make sense, and I genuinely didn't want this to be my first YouTube video, but like, deadlines are coming up. I believe the 3rd of October, maybe the 3rd of November. But either way, get those applications in. Don't give up. Some people, we were applying together, like, we're speaking about it, yeah, we're gonna apply. And then when it came to it, they just like didn't submit. I understand, life can get busy. And then it's also like, it's not always the time to do your masters, right? Depending on where you are in your career, in your life. Maybe this year you want to do other things and you want to do the masters later, whatever. But whenever you decide, you decide. The other thing to sort of casually mention is that in Namibia, the Commonwealth scholarship is administered through NSFAF, through NSFAF. So usually they will send out the call for applications, and then you drop off like a physical application for them, whatever, like nominating agency things. If that's not the case this year, because it might not be the case because of various reasons, but yeah, let's get that education. Cool. Bye.